would start. We've got limited time here with everybody. I think just go for it.
That sounds great. Thanks, Jeff. Well, an official welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Met section professionals for what I hope is going to be a really fun and engaging hour with our good friend, Daniel Berger. And before I introduce Daniel, I just want to introduce and thank our partners at ADIDAS Golf. The other person pictured here is Steve Slavik, representing ADIDAS, and was a pretty influential person in putting this call together. So Steve's broadcasting from Pinehurst at the ADIDAS Cup. How's it going down there, Steve?
It's awesome. Great energy. 33 teams stacked, ready to roll, and everybody's fired up, out to play some golf. We've got a fun event at the Cradle tonight where we're introducing our Rocks Box container. So a cool spot to hang out, be really good for member guests and other events coming up. But the inaugural event with the Rocks Box, and it's going great. It's just exciting to see people out playing golf and enjoying the sport like they should be. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see more pictures of that thing in action. And, thanks, Steve, for your friendship and partnership through the years. I've gotten a chance to know you. And for those of you who don't know Steve, he's got a pretty impressive background himself, a graduate of University of Arizona. I think you might have peaked a little early. You had an impressive junior golf career, finishing third in the World Juniors at age 12. You ran around with guys like Pat Perez and Charlie Hoffman growing up. And then you took the business route. Is that how we're seeing things?
Yeah, University of Arizona, the best 6 years of my life. Just call me Dr. Slavik. It took me a little while to get through college. Definitely had a lot of fun down there. And golf has been a huge part of my life since I was little. Was fortunate to get a chance to play a lot as a kid. And now don't have to rely on my golf game to pay my bills, but I get to be around the sport and get a chance to connect with people like you and Mr. Berger on the call. And it's great. It's awesome to be around the game that I love. And be around the sport that I'm really passionate about. So very fortunate, happy to be here. Appreciate you, Corey, and everybody on the call. I mean, all the PGA professionals that are joining us up in the Met section. Fantastic group. Appreciate what everybody does out there to support ADIDAS Golf. And as well, thank you to Daniel and the ADIDAS Sports Marketing team for helping us line this up. So happy to be here.
Well, your continued partnership's appreciated. So thanks you from all of us. Now to our honored guest, someone I'm really excited to get to know a little bit, a four-time winner on the PGA Tour, most recently in what I would say thrilling fashion, eagling the 18th at Pebble Beach to win the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. A little more statistically, 2015 won Rookie of the Year honors on the PGA Tour. He was a member of the 2017 President's Cup in winning fashion and a two-time All-American from Florida State. It's my privilege to welcome to the section, Daniel Berger.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Daniel, thanks for taking time today and speaking with what is all, a virtual room of PGA professionals. We're all teachers and coaches, but we all grow up from a playing background. We like to say we're the most competitive section in the country. I think we've got a pretty awesome depth of talent here on the playing side. So to talk to you today, to get a little peek behind the curtain at your journey and sort of what has made you successful from the playing side and in your career is really exciting. And I think some of the takeaways are not only to help us improve personally, but also things that we can share with our students to help them improve, I think will be really awesome. So thanks again. I can't thank you enough. Always a pleasure to kind of go through and research people and kind of learn a little bit more about their journey. And let's maybe kind of start with how it all started. I found it to be incredibly impressive that your journey in golf happened what I would consider very quickly. Is it true you didn't really start playing golf till 11 or 12?
Yeah, I grew up in a sport family. My dad was a professional tennis player back in the day, and so I actually gravitated first toward tennis. Played that competitively for a couple years. I loved it. It was something that it was like it wasn't a job or anything. It was just fun. And then I did a summer camp when I was 11 years old down in Miami, a golf summer camp, and I just remember falling in love with it and going, I cannot wait to come back to camp tomorrow. And that was kind of the first run-in I had with golf. And from that day on, I knew I always wanted to be an athlete. And it was just one of those things that I had so much fun doing. I said, this is what I want to dedicate my life to do. And from then on, it's just the rest is kind of history.
Well, tell me about that conversation. You come home and say, Dad, I think I'm putting the tennis racket down. Golf is my newfound passion. How'd that go over?
He was cool. They actually, when he retired, he played a bunch of golf. He got down to a 1 or 2 handicap. So, that was something that he gravitated toward himself. So I think just to see me find passion for some kind of sport was cool for him. And he never pushed me into anything. He kind of just let me figure out what I enjoyed doing. I think for any father to see their son, so passionate about something is pretty cool for them. But yeah, it was one of those things. I was just, from the moment I picked up that golf club, I was like, this is what I want to do. And it was kind of like an aha moment, which I don't know, many people have at such an early age, but that was something special for me for sure.
That's incredible. And, we're going to talk a little bit more probably about your dad's influence. Speaking of him, got to number 7 in the world in professional tennis, a pretty awesome career, and then finished coaching. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of those influences. But, take me through, you didn't play golf in high school. You go to Florida State. Were you recruited for golf, or did you walk on the team?
Yeah, so I was playing a bunch of junior golf tournaments, AJGAs, local, Florida section, golf tournaments. And, golf down in South Florida in high school wasn't the most competitive thing. And I was, I think, a little past the level of a lot of the guys that I was playing high school golf with. So I just decided to mainly focus on the AJGA stuff, the junior golf tournaments. So I didn't play on the high school team, but I was still competing all the time. And so I got recruited to go to Florida State. My dad went to Clemson. I always wanted to go to Clemson. I grew up going to, Death Valley and watching the football game. And, the coach there made me an unbelievable scholarship offer. But, after visiting, it was a little further away from home than I wanted to go. Florida State was in Tallahassee. I could drive back and forth back to my house in Jupiter. So it really fit for me. A lot of the guys that I went to high school with actually ended up going to Florida State, not playing on the golf team, but just friends of mine that were at Florida State. So I think just kind of everything aligned, and Florida State was the right place for me. And 2 of the best years I ever had in my life. If I'd have known that, my trajectory in the golf career would have gone this way, and if I would have stayed 4 years in college, I would have stayed 4 years for sure.
Blavik, did you hear that? Some people only go to college for 2 years.
I picked up his other 2. I covered you on the back end.
There you go. That's good. Well, and that's, I think, the most impressive thing, right? Things kind of go fast forward. You start playing more organized golf, as we would say, in competition, a step up from your AJGA experiences. 2 years at Florida State, 2-time All-American. You turn professional, get right onto the web.com tour at the time. And then only a year there where you earn your sort of battleground promotion after finishing in the top 15 right up to the PGA Tour. So is that like life and fast forward right there, or was that kind of part of the plan as you saw it?
Well, I would say it was part of the plan, but I was a little naive to think it was going to happen so quick. I play in what they call the Palmer Cup, which is a team event for the best college golfers in the country. And then, I met with a couple people and, decided to turn pro literally that summer without really consulting with too many people. So I think it was a little bit of a shock for a lot of guys. Other than Jordan Spieth, I was really the only guy that was kind of taking that route of, going to school for a couple years and turning pro. And then, going right to Q school, which, a lot of people know that's incredibly challenging. And, there's so many great players that, get beat up at Q school or don't get through. And, I was lucky enough to play well that stretch of golf where you really needed to play well. And, everything just happened so quickly. Next thing I know, I'm traveling around South America by myself on the, the Corn Ferry tour, going to Colombia and Brazil and Panama and Chile, kind of just like a fish out of water as a 19-year-old kid who's not really used to that kind of stuff. So I think it matured me a lot. It got me ready for what I was probably not going to be ready for, if I was going straight to the PGA Tour. But, one of the best years of my life in terms of knowing my golf game, learning my golf game, getting better, figuring things out. A lot of the stuff that's so challenging as a young golfer when you're trying to make it professionally is just all the other stuff that comes along with playing the golf, the travel, the flights, the hotels, the rental cars. I couldn't even rent a car by myself because I wasn't old enough. So there was all these different kind of variables going along, and we just kind of managed. And, next thing you know, I'm playing on the PGA Tour. So it was a whirlwind couple years, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, no one gets there alone. As you kind of mentioned, I know family's a big part of that, but talk to me about your relationship with coaches through the years. Who taught you how to play, and who are you working with now? I'd like to dive a little bit more into that relationship and how, we as coaches, we can maybe pick up on some cues in terms of the success stories that you've had.
Yeah, at a young age, I started working with a guy named Bobby Cole at the McLean Golf School, an older South African guy. He was a player himself, a really good player. And he was the first kind of guy that got me started in the technical side of the golf game. And But he did it in a very simplistic way. I'm always call myself a feel player. I don't know much about the golf swing. I just know what makes me work. And then I ended up moving from Miami to Jupiter, and my dad got in touch with Yvonne Lendl, the tennis player, who put me in touch with a section pro down in Jupiter. His name was Matt Doyle. He's the club pro here at Turtle Creek in South Florida. Sure. And he kind of under his wing. He drove me to and from the golf course every single day. He gave me a job. I was picking the range every single day from Monday to Sunday, sunrise to sundown. And that's where I really got my start with working hard, really doing the small things that kind of take you to that next level. And then Matt ended up going up north, like a lot of club pros do, for, a seasonal thing where they go work somewhere up north and then come back down in the winter time to Florida. So he got me in touch with a guy named Jeff Leishman, who I worked with for almost 10 years. And he was probably the guy that really took me to that next level. He had worked with a lot of web.com players, a lot of PGA Tour players. And then recently I just made a change. I started working with Cameron McCormick probably 2 years ago out in Dallas. And, obviously the results have come and I've worked hard, but I've gotten a lot better in the last, 2 years. So a lot of exciting stuff, but, I always say that, golf coaches are so important because they can say the right things and lead you in the direction to something good, or they can kind of steer you down the path of opening too many doors and then your mind can't really shut it off. So I feel like my entire career, I've always had people that have obviously given me great insight, but they haven't opened the doors that weren't necessary, if that makes sense. Yeah. The information that I needed, they gave me, but I didn't need all that other BS stuff that comes along with it.
I've had the chance to obviously coach beginning players at our club, but to sit in on some coaching sessions with highly skilled tour players. And I always marvel sometimes that conversation with a tour player oftentimes can be more fragile than even, the beginning golfer. That importance of knowing what to say and when is so crucial. Can you remark about anything that is a major sort of benchmark in those types of lessons or conversations that you learn that you still today, feel your success?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that I always try to focus on is if I'm in a certain pattern where, let's say, I'm overcutting the golf ball, and I'm asking my coach Cameron, well, why is that happening? I want the most simple explanation possible. I mean, give me the face is too open. Okay, well, that's why you're cutting it too much. And then allow me to kind of be the athlete and figure out a way to neutralize that a little bit, rather than, like I said, opening all these different doors to where my mind can't really close them. And I would say that there are a lot of guys that need a lot of information, and then there's a lot of guys that don't need a lot of information. I obviously tend to lean toward not being super technical. So I always kind of just want the most simple answer in the most basic way that you can say it. And for me, that's always been something that's been super helpful. I think, as I said, I'm a feel player. I don't want to know where the club head is in relation to this muscle or this. Just give me the simplest, most possible solution to the problem, and I'll take it from there, or at least have a feeling that I can figure it out from there.
Well, I mean, there's no question it's a know your customer kind of scenario. And I think that's what all the great teachers are able to do, is to direct their information and knowledge to what is needed from their student. And it sounds like you've had a lot of success with that for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, it's kind of golf small world, right? So Cameron spoke to our section a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. Yvonne Lendl is a local to Connecticut here. I actually grew up at the club I grew up at. So it's kind of funny to hear how golf kind of brings you all back full circle. Talk to me about like your golfing heroes. Who were your golfing heroes growing up, or may still be right now?
It's funny though, because I grew up in that kind of tennis world, I never really had necessarily a golfing hero. I mean, obviously Tiger Woods, would be in the forefront. Mr. Nicklaus, obviously in the forefront of that category. But I always looked up to guys like Andy Roddick, Roger Federer, awesome. Guys more on the tennis scene. But they're so similar, even though they're in different sports. When you talk to certain guys, their mindsets are usually are the same. But I've been blessed to have been able to spend a ton of time with Tiger, obviously playing in the President's Cup where he was a captain there, and then just being down in South Florida. So he's so much more open than people think he is, which is pretty cool.
Well, I probably could speak for every single person on this call that Tiger is at the forefront of most of all golfing hero type stuff. And, being in Jupiter, having that close proximity to him through the President's Cup, you've obviously probably created some friendships there. And any wonderful Tiger stories or takeaways through the years that might interest this crowd here?
A lot of them come from the President's Cup, but they can't be spoken of.
I hear you.
But no, I mean, like I said, he is very upfront. He is super open. I think I think as he's gotten older, some of that, I mean, the competitiveness is still there, but he could tend to be, I'm trying to think of the right word without using a bad word, but you know what I mean? He was very quiet. He didn't have a big group of people.
He's sneaky, right? He's sneaky.
But, he's much more open now. If you text him, he responds. He's the biggest name in the sport and in all of sports. And it's just cool to spend some time with him when you get the chance to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, we're obviously all wishing him for a speedy recovery, and, send him all our well wishes if you speak to him next. All right. So talking about mechanics a little bit, I know you said you're a field player, and I think that kind of comes through when we look at your golf swing, and probably everybody on this call has broken down every tour professional's golf swing at one point or another. We know all tour players do the same thing correctly. They square the face at the ball. They create speed in an efficient manner. And then obviously your short game is the key in most times to break through and wins and so forth. But looking at your golf swing, it's unique, right? From a visual perspective. Tell us a little bit about it. Totally self-taught. Are there some strategies there that you hang on to? And then the second backup question to that is, have you been around anyone who's tried to make it more textbook, perhaps? Yeah. Tell me about that kind of experience.
I mean, to answer your second question, no, I've never had anybody try to change what I have. We've always made small little adjustments, but it's so funny because when I look at my swing versus what I think it feels like and how it looks, those two never quite, go together. I mean, I feel like my swing looks like Tiger Woods. And then when I see it on video, I'm like, whoa, that's not Tiger Woods there. But I think that obviously the biggest key is, can I do it consistently? Right. And I do it under pressure, and do I know where the ball is going to go if I don't hit it the way I want to hit it? And I think those are the three biggest things. And, obviously I'm pressure tested. I've been in some of the biggest situations, and it holds up to that. And I can hit shots under pressure when I need to, and I know where my misses are going to go. So, I can almost eliminate the entire left side of the golf course for myself, because I know if anything, I tend to overcut the ball and I miss it to the right. So when you step up onto a hole like, the 18th hole at Pebble Beach, I can aim that thing in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and know that I'm not going to hit it in the water. So there's certain elements that I think are to my benefit with having more of a athletic, artistic style swing.
No question. Well, it's absolutely fun to watch. What kind of technology do you use in your preparation or your practice?
I practice every single day with TrackMan. There's not a single day that I do not practice with TrackMan. I think it's the most valuable piece of technology out there. I'm always looking at my carry numbers. I'm always looking at my spin rates. I'm always looking at the simple things on TrackMan. I'm not looking at, the face to path and all the, what I would call confusing things that I don't quite understand. Yep. And then I call it the most expensive tape measure in the world, because what I'm using it for is distance control. And then recently I started using a machine called the Foresight, the GC Quad, which is basically a TrackMan, but it's all normalized, so it doesn't account any of the wind. It's basically a dome, just a barometer in there that measures, temperature and humidity, and that's it. So I'll use that every single day before I go out to a round to play a golf tournament, just to get a simple feel of how far the ball is going. And it's something that I think has made us a little bit diva-like out there, because we're always using these kind of machines, and when we don't have them, we wonder, like, what did these guys back in the day use?
Right. Well, the artistic side of things and the feel side of things, what they depend on. With that said, I think it's interesting how that kind of segues into equipment. I found it interesting when and how you made an equipment change. You had started your career off with TaylorMade and then went to your current company affiliation with Callaway. But you did that right after you won for the first time on the PGA Tour. and then you turn around and won again, which I think is a testament to your ability and skill. But kind of take me through some of the decision making and equipment, what you look for. And one thing I think that we all recognize is technology, and TrackMan has made those transitions a little easier. But maybe take us through a little bit of your equipment decision making.
Yeah, I started with TaylorMade. I used TaylorMade my entire junior career, high school career, college career. And when I first turned pro, I had a couple offers from a couple different companies, and I was advised to kind of stick with the equipment that I was comfortable with, which I think was a great decision, kind of just coming out and knowing that I had a bunch of big stuff coming up rather than focusing on testing and trying all these different things. I knew I had something that worked. And I played that equipment for 2 years, and I ended up winning my second year with that stuff. And then my contract expired, some other options came available, decided to go with Callaway. Obviously a great company, ton of technology behind all their equipment, used that for 3 years. I would say the toughest transition for me was the golf ball, going from a Titleist golf ball to a Callaway golf ball. Not that, each and every one of these companies don't make great golf balls. It's just more of a trust factor, having played a Titleist ball for so long. And then I had a 6-month period where I was hurt. My contract expired, and I just said, I'm going to go back to the stuff that I know that I've played really well with. So I went back to a set of TaylorMade MC irons that I had when I was 16 years old. I went back to just all this old equipment. Went back to, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm with you. I think Corey's
Okay.
internet bounced out, so I'll take over. But yeah, keep rolling.
Yeah, I was just saying that I went back to all this equipment that I was super comfortable with. And I just think that it just made it so much easier because I didn't have to focus on all these other variables about, spin rates and irons and golf balls and drivers. I just went back to knowing that if I hit a bad shot, it's me, it's not the equipment. And I think that kind of just made it a little bit easier, especially leading up to a tournament. If things weren't going the way I wanted them to go, I didn't have to focus on all these different things. I just focused on my swing or my distance control, the simple stuff that I could control.
Right. No, makes sense. I mean, for guys like me, I look for excuses like equipment to blame it on, but definitely can appreciate that. And it is interesting.
Don't we? We all look for
around golf ball for sure. Yeah.
We all look for excuses, don't we?
Daniel, take us through, the other side of equipment. Obviously, clubs and ball are important, but apparel, shoes, I mean, that's a technical part of what we make decisions about. Kind enough to have this association with ADIDAS, but what are some of the decision makings and things that you look for in that category?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, like I said, always been in that sport background, being in tennis. So I'm a slimmer fitting guy, so I like that kind of athletic style of stuff. The performance style, materials a little bit lighter, breathable. And then I always would tell the guys from ADIDAS when I want to feel good and look and feel like I look good before I go out there. That just gives you that little bit of confidence. I know that sounds dumb, but I mean, it just made a big difference for me. And they've been amazing. They always have a ton of different product available. Whatever style you want, they have it. And then in shoes, I started with that Tour 360, and then they came out with those Code Chaos. And I had never really worn a shoe that didn't have spikes. But I tried them on and I was like, this is the shoe I'm going to wear. They were super stable, super comfortable. It was like wearing a tennis shoe, but with a little bit more support. And it's the only shoe I've ever worn where I could play 36 holes and walk and not feel like my feet were going to, kill me at the end of the day. So, just super happy with everything they've come out with for me. And I look forward to so many more years with them.
Yeah, and in a category that's ever changing in technology, as we see from year to year, it's definitely another exciting avenue for sure. Hey, Daniel, let's talk about winning for a second. So you've won 4 times on the PGA Tour, of course, 2 close calls in playoffs. One somewhat memorable for the world, watching Jordan Spieth hole out at the Travelers. I'm sure it's not what you wanted to see by no means, but you played exceptionally well that week. So what I want to talk about for a second is that I think there's a difference between playing great golf and winning, and that there's almost a sense that you have to learn how to win. And so my question to you is that, do you believe in that philosophy that you had to kind of figure out how to win? Of course, we know how difficult it is on the PGA Tour. But how did you learn to win? And, how and who instilled that confidence in you that you could go out and win on the biggest stage in the world?
Yeah, I mean, every time you tee up at a PGA Tour event, you're playing 156 of the best golfers in the world. So, you know, you have to be patient enough to know that, you know, some weeks are not going to go the way you want them to. But in terms of winning, I mean, I never won at every level of my career. You know, I won in junior golf. I won a couple times later in my career in college, and then spent that whole year on the web.com tour where I never got it done. But the first chance I ever really had was at the Honda Classic in my rookie year. And coming down the last hole, I hit 3-wood on the green, made birdie to take a one-shot lead over Padraig Harrington. And then he ended up birdieing the last hole to get into a playoff. And I just think that at that time, I wasn't quite ready for my first win. I think I needed to learn a little bit more about myself, learn what it takes. I mean, I was 9 shots back going into the final round and played a great round. But I think it was a little bit of a reality check when he ended up beating me. It made me a little bit hungrier, gave me a little bit more motivation. And, you know, I played way better toward the end of the year because of that. But when you talk about learning to win, I think the most important thing is not shooting yourself out of the tournament in the first 15 holes of the tournament, if that makes sense. You know, I try to look at it as a marathon and not as a sprint. You know, there's 72 golf holes. I'm not going to play 72 perfect golf holes. I have to be patient enough that when it's not going the way I want it to go, I know that I have the ability to make that outcome happen toward the end of the round. But I just think that being in that position enough times really makes you feel comfortable, because it's an uncomfortable position to be in no matter how many times you've won, but you get better at it as you do it more often.
I think that's something that we all preach to our students is tournament repetitions are invaluable, and you can't put yourself in those situations enough. You know, take us through a little bit about coming down the stretch in a big tournament. I know you had that experience at the Honda, but then you have gotten it done, and you've continued to position yourself in the hunt on a Sunday afternoon. Does the game change? Does the program change? Or is it just a matter of, you know, the outcome being enough to secure a win?
I think that when you're coming down the stretch, you know, of a tournament and you have a chance to win, everything kind of slows down a little bit. You stop focusing as much on the negative shots. You just kind of stay in the moment. You try to focus on what you can handle right there at the time, and just being in that moment. But I think it all comes back down to confidence, you know, and just knowing that you can accomplish the shot that you're trying to accomplish, or make the putt that you're trying to make, or feel like you've done it enough times to know that I'm just better than these guys and I can just do this if I want to. But I think there's nothing really quite like it. I mean, your heart is racing the entire time. I don't know how many times you've won. I mean, you're just always, it's not an anxiety. It's just an excitement. You know, you're just so excited to be in that position, and you just feel like you want to show it off to the world. You want to hit that shot on the last hole to 10 feet, you know, or make that putt in front of all the people. And that kind of, it just, your focus level is heightened, and you just feel like you can do anything. You're just in that zone. It's hard to describe, but it just feels like nothing's really impossible when you're coming down that stretch with, you know, a chance to win.
Well, you know, leaping forward into sort of the things that I prepare, but I kind of was going to ask about the zone and your experience with it. I think it's a mythical thing in many ways that we talk about as coaches and as players. I think we've all thought or may have been in that arena. Is that something you kind of have been in, know about, think about? Tell me about that sort of super level heightened sense.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily quite recognize it when you're doing it. Everything just kind of feels simple. You know, it's the caddy gives you the number, you grab a club and you hit the shot. There's not really much other variables or factors or things going around. And you almost you kind of, everything else is kind of blanked out, like you're in a tunnel almost a little bit. You don't really hear the noises you would normally hear. You're just so in tune with what you're trying to accomplish that everything else is kind of not really there. But
it's fun to be there, right?
Be there. And I mean, it's like I said, winning a golf tournament is so incredibly challenging. And while you're doing it, you're going, why do I want to put myself through this all the time? Do it, you're like, that's why I want to put myself through it. Yeah. You know, it's such a high that you can't really explain.
You know, it's a question I like to ask any professional athlete at any level, really, when I get a chance to about the zone. And your answer there, I compared to when I spoke to Andy Pettit about pitching in Yankee Stadium in the World Series in the 7th game, and you got the ball in your hand. It's amazing. He said the exact same thing you did, and how it gets real quiet. everything slows down. You don't hear the fans anymore. It was him and Jorge just, back and forth. It's fascinating to me that, without knowing, people describe it very similarly. It's
The
definitely
toughest,
a real thing.
the toughest thing about playing a golf tournament coming down the stretch is once you hit that shot, you got another 300 yards before you hit that. So it's like, what do I fill my mind with, to kind of get to that next shot? And that's where a good caddy or, the caddy who's standing beside you is always going to be there. They have that ability to kind of keep you in that moment and keep you focused on that task that you have at hand.
And your relationship with your current caddy, has it been going on for a long time, or is this, tell me a little bit about that relationship?
Yeah, we started working probably a year and a half together. He's been around forever. His name's Josh Castle. He's been out here for 15 years. He caddied for John Senden for 12 years, and then Billy Horschel for a while, 2 or 3 years. And then he was in between jobs, and I gave him a call, and he said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And I always think that's kind of how the best, kind of caddy player relationships works. They're kind of just formed from, just out of nowhere. And he's been a great friend through the last year and a half. And I always listen to his advice. I think it's like having another teammate with you in an individual sport. They want you to do well. You want to do well. So any person that can bring, added value and advice, you're going to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about kind of how you fulfill that time in that 300-yard walk. I have to think, some of the parallels to tennis and golf being just such a long period of time to hold focus. I always marvel at those championship matches that go 4 and 5 hours in a tennis court, and how every single, point could matter in the outcome. And, do you draw parallels? Do you chat with Dad at all about those kind of experiences and keeping your focus?
I think early on I definitely did. At this point, it's like I've done it so long that, most of the pieces of information are super small and maybe 1%, makes me better. But I mean, it's always nice to have someone that's been there and done that to bounce ideas off of and to get their perspective from. But, anytime that you can chat with someone who's done it for 20 years, you're going to get value out of that.
No doubt about it. Let's shift gears and just kind of talk about the metropolitan area here. You've been obviously to the New York area. Our section includes Long Island, Westchester, and Fairfield County, Connecticut. And you've got an impressive career. We talked about the real close call up in Hartford and playing at the Travelers. You most recently in 2018 at the US Open had a tie for 6th finish at Shinnecock. You played well at Winged Foot most recently here, which was a really unique experience for us to host that in our area. And then, of course, Bethpage Black made the cut in 2019, always a tough test and a future Ryder Cup site. Tell me a little bit about your favorite golf courses in this area. What do you think about Met Golf?
Oh, I mean, I love going up there to play golf. Shinnecock has to be one of my best memories, going into the final round, having, tied for the lead at the US Open, that's stuff that you dream of. But I actually, I played at a course called Shelter Harbor that I was a member at in Rhode Island. Spent a bunch of time up there practicing in my off weeks. But, I just feel like it's such a different vibe, and the golf courses are so different than what I'm used to here in Florida that it's a breath of fresh air to come over there and play some different golf courses and see some non-Bermuda rough and some greens and just a little bit of a different side of the golf that I'm used to.
Well, it's got to be the POA greens with Pebble Beach and with what we have up here, right? I think that's your stick.
I mean, I was never really good at POA, and then I figured it out. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully I guess the US Open is going to be at, where's the one in California this coming up here?
Torrey. Yeah.
Torrey Pines. That's going to be POA. So that'll be a cool experience.
I don't think anybody has figured out POA yet. What's your favorite golf course up here? Obviously, the Shinnecock experience has to hold a high place, but any assistant pros sneaking on a Monday somewhere that you really thought was cool?
I'm trying to think. Is Misquamicut Club in the Met section, or is that just
in Rhode Island? But close enough. A pretty cool piece of property on the water there.
Yeah, I spent a bunch of time in Misquamicut because Matt Doyle, who's here at Turtle Creek, he was one of the pros up there. So it's another really short golf course where 9 holes is kind of inland and then 9 holes is on the water, but you just don't really get that here in Florida. Everything's kind of flat, and you pretty much see every green from the tee box versus, kind of getting some undulation and a little bit more variety in the golf holes.
I would think akin to your artistic nature of playing the game, curving shots, hitting to elevated greens, things of that nature, probably kind of brings out a little bit of the excitement in you as a player.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit more fun. I think, like I said, anytime you get to go out there and just see some different designs, we're not used to that. For me, it's palm trees and palmetto bushes. So,
do you think a certain style of golf course you're probably more equipped for in terms of your game? Your resume has you winning all different places, but what do you think about that?
I mean, for me, I've always felt like the tougher golf courses have always been better for me. I think the courses where 8 to 12 under par wins seems to be the best for me. Like a Shinnecock where, you're not going to see, I mean, any US Open, but you're not going to see guys shoot 15, 18 under par. But I think that the biggest advantage for me is I drive the ball well. I'm not necessarily the longest driver on tour, but if you just look at percentages, distance from the fairway, I hit the ball relatively straight off the tee. So that's always been one of my biggest assets, I think.
Talking about distance, we recently did a segment with some of the renowned instructors on distance and finding distance, some of the folks that are working with some long drivers and Kyle Berkshire and guys like that. There's clearly a seeking of distance trend out there. And I think that Bryson has kind of led the way with. Thoughts on that, and are you a buyer of it, and are you doing something perhaps to chase some distance?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the guys that always lead the strokes gained off the tee average, I mean, it's the guys that hit it the furthest. But I don't mind being 20 yards shorter and in the fairway. So I mean,
yeah,
I do buy some of it. Like, I mean, do I want to hit a 3-wood into a par 5 when I can hit a 5-iron? Yeah, obviously I want to hit a 5-iron, but I don't quite know how that level of speed and torque on your body is gonna pay off in the long run. I mean, are you gonna have a 10 or 15 year long career if you continue to swing the club at 135 miles an hour? I don't know the answers to those questions. I mean, obviously it is a big advantage if you can hit it that far and relatively straight. But I always think it comes down to short game. The guys that chip it and putt it the best, if they can drive it decent, they're gonna have a chance to win. And when you look at a guy like Bryson, yeah, he averages, the most strokes gained off the tee, but last year he was number 1 in strokes gained putting from inside of 10 feet. So not only does he hit it far, he makes everything inside of 10 feet. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good combination when you're driving at 340 and you're making every putt inside of 10 feet.
Last time I checked, that's the recipe, right, Splav?
It is. And it's interesting. And it ties back to a question that came up from John Hobbins. And he was asking about, you talked about strokes gains around the green, off the tee, et cetera. He asked the question about percentage of time that you spend in each area of your game, putting, chipping, pitching, bunker play, and full swing. I felt I could get that question, and it seemed like good timing for that.
I would say 80% of my practice revolves around chipping and putting, and probably 20% around hitting balls. I just think it's the most important part of the golf game is chipping and putting. And it's something that when you go to a tour driving range at a PGA Tour event, every single time it's all these guys on the driving range. And I mean, you're going to hit a ton of great golf shots, but you need to get the ones up and down when you don't hit the green. So I think that's where I've tried to focus most of my time on. Last year was one of my best years on tour, and I led, the PGA Tour in scrambling. So there's no secret to why I played better. It's because I chipped it better, so that's where I've tried a lot of my time on.
And as it goes for putting practice, are there drills or techniques or things that you just never steer away from? Or, is it a sense that, you're always just fine tuning your feels?
I mean, like I said, I think putting is super artistic. Not everyone does everything the same way. I mean, there are some certain variables that you have to control in order to be a good putter. I mean, can you control your speed and can you hit it where you're looking? If you can't do those two things, then the rest of the stuff doesn't make sense. So I do a lot of stuff with face control, making sure that, I set up a straight line with 2 tees, just making sure I can get the ball through the tees, controlling my face through impact. And then everything else revolves around speed control. And then another thing that I've added in this year that Cameron has really pushed on me is almost testing that after I've practiced those 2 key components, where I do an actual 9-hole strokes gained putting, where I pick different putts, go through my routine, actually like as if I'm in a golf tournament, and you just input them into a little website and it tells you your strokes gained putting. So it's a simple way for me to practice and then test and see if I've improved.
That's awesome. And I think you're right. I think if I could get all our students to be 80-20 short game, they'd all improve their handicaps for sure. I'm going to soundbite that and ship it out to all my membership for sure.
No one wants to do that though, because it's not as fun. It's harder.
Yeah, I hear you. 2017 President's Cup. Pretty amazing to be in a team atmosphere. We touched on it for a minute. Can you, without divulging some of the secrets, can you take us in the team room for a minute and just give us a sense of the vibe and some of the memories perhaps that are most valuable to you?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that every week you're competing against these guys wanting to kick their butts. And then finally there's one event in the year where you come together as a team. So it's pretty special that you finally get that environment where you're not looking at Jordan Spieth and going, oh, I have to beat that guy this week, or Dustin Johnson. Oh, I have to beat that guy, but that guy's my teammate. That's pretty cool. That's something that doesn't happen very often, but it's pretty cool how everyone's able to come together. You know, we're from all different backgrounds. We're all different ages, you know, from 25 years old to 40 years old. And yet we all kind of come together and it's one of the best weeks I've ever had as a professional. So, you know, obviously looking forward to making that team at Whistling Straits and playing in the Ryder Cup if I'm able to continue, you know, the play that I've had. But it's something that once you play one team event, you never want to miss it ever again. You know, 40,000 fans every day, you know, rooting you on is something, especially when you're wearing the red, white, and blue and representing your country.
Well, clearly the Ryder Cup is probably a major accomplishment for anybody, and you're poised in position to be there. So obviously we encourage you on your great play. We'd love to see you out there playing. And, you know, professionals have often said that a Ryder Cup is without a doubt the most pressure that they've ever experienced. You know, guys have said that they've never felt more nauseous on a first tee than teeing it up in a Ryder Cup, which obviously is like, why do we want to do this? But this is what kind of makes us tick, right? You know, tell us a little bit about, you touched on how important it would be to make a team like that, but then, you know, handling nerves and being nervous. You talked about coming down the stretch like at Pebble, but just take us through a little bit, you know, the elephant in the room. We know we're nervous. We know we're pumped up. You know, what are some of the keys or strategies that you use when you really have to get over that nervous minute?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first lessons that I ever had with Jeff Leishman, who was my coach for 10 years, was how to breathe. And I said, why are we doing this right now? I want to go hit drivers. Why are you trying to teach me how to breathe? And he's like, this is going to be one of the things that you rely on most. I promise you that. And he was right about that, because every single big moment that I've ever had in my career, the only thing I can ever recall from that moment is my breathing. And it was something that I always tried to focus on because it made such a big difference for me, and it kind of just freed me up. But I always tried to expel as much air as possible, like right before I hit that putt. And it just like makes your brain kind of stop thinking about everything else, and you just focus on your breath. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, the ball went in the hole. It just kind of happens. But that was one of the things that always made a big difference for me, was breathing. And another thing that I always try to focus on is eating. I know it sounds crazy, but you're out on the golf course for almost 5 hours in a tournament round. And, you know, you tee off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 5 o'clock and you haven't eaten anything. I mean, your body is just not used to that. So eating for me was a really big thing, and breathing for sure.
Well, kind of shifting. Thank you very much for that, by the way. You know, shifting a little bit more to personal life. You're down there in Jupiter, and you touched on spending some time up in Rhode Island, both close to the water. Tell us about straight vibing.
Yeah, you know, I've always grown up on the water. My dad had a little 17-foot flats boat when I was growing up. We used to wake up in the morning at 7:30, take it out, go fishing all day, go to the golf course, play golf. So that for me has always kind of been my comfort zone. And you know, when I hurt my hand, I had a buddy that had a big center console boat that we went fishing on a couple of times down to the Keys. And I said, if I can ever afford it, this is what I want to do. I want to get a, you know, big center console. And so when I could, that's what I did. And I just that's kind of like my getaway. It's just being able to go on the water, go fishing. You put your phone away. You don't hear any noise. It's just the waves and you, and even, you know, a bad day fishing is a good day any day. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
That's
John,
awesome.
John in the chat did ask how fast your contender goes. He was
the contender. I got rid of that and got a different boat. But the contender, it's all about fuel. I mean, how much fuel do you want to burn? So I mean, you could go 70 miles an hour, but you'd be out of fuel in an hour and a half. So I mean, you just gotta, you gotta decide what you want to do here.
Yeah.
Daniel, jumping back, Nick DeFalco just kind of buzzed in on the chat, just talking about your eating habits on the golf course. Do you focus in on certain things? Do you have a sort of a menu that you carry with you in terms of different snacks and stuff that you focus on?
Yeah, I used to eat PB&Js on the golf course, and I did that for like 4 straight years. And then I started looking at peanut butter and jelly and like gagging in my mouth. I looked at it, so I was like, I got to switch this thing up. So I started going with almond butter and banana sandwiches. Those for me have been the best. I feel like it just keeps your energy level throughout the day. I mean, you're just basically trying not to go up and down. You're trying to stay as even as possible. And then, I've recently, in the last couple of years, I started adding a protein shake, not as a real meal replacement, but just something to kind of keep your body not feeling like you're starving, which for me, like I eat a lot. So it's tough to go 4 or 5 hours on the golf course where you're burning a ton of calories. You got to replace them somehow. So those have been the 2 biggest things that I think, have made a difference. When I was younger, my dad used to tell me to eat a couple Skittles before coming down the last 2 or 3. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, totally. In Jupiter, a great community of professional golfers that find home in Jupiter. Do you find yourself with a consistent group that you play and practice with? Who do you run with in Jupiter?
I mean, there's just so many guys around here. It's tough to really say that I play with these 3 guys every day, but I'm at the Bears Club a lot, and Bears Club, there's a ton of guys. Literally you could name 10 people that are out. Rory's out there, Justin's out there, Ricky's out there. There's just so many different guys. But I try to play as much as possible. I mean, I try to practice early on in the week and then play as much golf as I can leading up to a golf tournament, because I always feel like playing for me has been the best way to kind of get ready for a tournament.
Oh, I think we have a frozen Corey.
Frozen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely appreciate that. The in-game reps make such a big difference. That's for sure. You mentioned a number of people, but we do have a question from Rich Jones asking if you ever practice or get a chance to play with your old teammate Brooks.
I don't think Brooks practices that much, to be honest. I'm not sure. I don't really see him that much playing golf. He lives right down the street from me, but I honestly, I've lived here in Jupiter for 15 years. I think I've played golf with Brooks here twice.
Okay.
I don't know. I actually don't know what he does on his off weeks, because I don't see him playing golf ever.
You're muted, Corey.
Sorry, thanks. A little technical difficulty. We've got just shy of 10 minutes left. I kind of wanted to finish with a not so rapid fire question and answer. So please feel free to expound on any of these. Just have a little fun if you don't mind, kind of as we wrap up. So favorite tour stop for dinner? What's the favorite place to eat in the tour?
I like to go to Memphis, just obviously because of the barbecue there. They got incredible barbecue. And then the Players Championship, it's sushi and any high-end thing you can think of. I'm like, we want this every week, but we realize it's not possible. But I mean, they treat us great everywhere we go. There's no bad places to eat.
For sure. If you weren't a tour player, and I'm even going to strike a tennis touring professional, what would you be?
Oh man, I don't even know. I hadn't even thought about that.
Fisherman.
If you could be a fisherman and that was a job, then that's what I would want to do.
Absolutely. Tell me the loudest roar you've heard on a golf course. What was the situation?
Jordan Spieth's bunker shot on 18 by far. I mean, I don't know how many people were around that 18th green, but that was pretty. Even being on the losing side of that, I was like, wow, that was pretty crazy.
They always say you have to expect your opponent to do whatever, that they're going to. Did you see that one coming?
After he snap hooked his drive in the tree on the first playoff hole and it came back in the fairway, I was thinking, man, maybe this like a golden horseshoe up his butt or something. Cause I never.
It's really hard to win, right? It's really hard to win. Any golf superstitions?
I don't like to walk on hazard lines. I don't know. I think that's kind of weird, but I think every golfer is a little OCD. But for some reason, I'm just like, if I see a red line or a yellow line, I take a step over it. I'm not stepping on that thing.
That's a good one. Like the pitcher not going on the baseline there, right?
The baseball trunk line, Miller. I tell my kids when I coach Little League, never step on the line. You never step on the line.
Go-to karaoke song. What's the current lineup?
Say in 28 years, I have never sung karaoke, so I wouldn't even have a question.
That's such an easy out right there. What's your favorite golf course to play? Off day, you could play anywhere you want in the world.
Sky Preserve down here in Jupiter is where I grew up, picking the range. It's just, there's some kind of feelings that you get when you go somewhere that you've been for so long.
That's great. Who's your favorite player to be paired with? And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you who your least favorite player to be paired with is.
Favorite player, probably Gary Woodland. Good buddy. He's just super low key, and you can chat it up even in a big moment or a bad moment when things aren't going your way. He's just super open.
Do you find yourself as a talker on the golf course, or is it generally everybody keeps to themselves?
I mean, I kind of feel it out versus, how the other guys are. There's certain guys that don't really talk a lot. I mean, if you play with Hideki Matsuyama, there's not a ton of conversation going on, but everyone's kind of got their own little thing going, and you can tell when they don't want to be talked to because they stand 50 yards away from you and they got their head facing the ground.
Pretty clear.
Yeah.
What annoys you the most on tour?
Annoys me the most? It doesn't annoy me, but you just get those random fans that are a little just too outgoing, the ones that had a few too many cocktails and, just, I don't know. There's how it is. Some people are just, they're not ready for it. I don't know. Can't describe it. The mashed potato.
I apologize. I've been that guy before, so chances are.
Mashed potatoes before you've made contact with the golf ball is a little excessive, but
yeah, I don't disagree with that for sure. Non-tour player, perfect dream foursome. Who you inviting along to play?
Probably my dad, Michael Jordan. I have to pick Roger Federer because everyone wants to play with Roger Federer, and myself.
There you go. That's not a bad one.
No, is that 3 or 4?
We can make it a 5-ball. It's fine.
We play a lot of 5 balls around here.
That's great. Best shot you've ever hit. What's the one that just burns in your mind as the perfect golf shot?
Probably the 3-wood into 18 at Pebble Beach. 3-woods have always been a tough club for me. I mean, they're just they're either really good off the tee and they're not good off the deck, or they're good off the deck and they're not off the tee. So it's I've always had a struggle finding one that works for both.
Like any good caddy, I hate to ask this question, but come on, what's the worst shot you've ever hit on tour?
I've shanked a few here and there. But I always say whenever I'm shanking it, I'm close to hitting it perfect, so it doesn't bother me too much.
That's funny. That's what I told my lesson this morning after 30 minutes of shanks. He's so close, right?
You're so close.
So close. What's the biggest fish you ever caught?
Probably I caught a 150-pound swordfish like 6 months ago. So that was pretty cool.
That took some energy.
Well, I had an electric reel. I just clicked the button and watched.
Come on, I want the struggle story here, right? Come on.
You're just drinking a beer and you just watch and you're just clicking a button.
That's my kind of fishing right there. I like that. Sign me up.
Yeah. But it's the 5 hours on end waiting for that fish to hit that isn't as much fun.
Well, you have the full cooler though, right?
That's true. That's true.
What's your favorite country to visit internationally? Where do you like to go?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've had such a great time in all the South American countries I've visited. I mean, Bogota was amazing. Chile was amazing. Brazil was amazing. Places that I never thought that I would have been able to go to. Those have been.
Splav, did we lose Daniel for a second?
It looks like we might have. He's trying to keep up with you and your internet connection.
I suppose I'm owed that. Let's give him one more second. While we have you, Splav, anything on the ADIDAS front that could excite our members in the section that we should look forward to here?
No, I think we're all just super. I mean, there's a lot of things to be excited about, but I think we're most excited about the season getting rolling. And we're fired up with latest data tech market share numbers, #1 in apparel, #2 in footwear, crank it along, great success with the bottoms, seeing layering coming back and #2 in layering, which has been fantastic for us. So business has been strong. I mean, obviously getting a quick chance to put a bow on it. I want to thank you and the you and all the PGA professionals and staff out there working to support not only ADIDAS golf, but the game. It's great to see everybody, the growth in the game and the engagement is fantastic. So really, really good stuff, and appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you and Daniel to do the call.
Absolutely. Splav, and we know that golf is growing and it's absolutely on a boom right now. And, everybody's kind of chasing around and trying to make ends meet with supply chain issues that all of golf is facing and different challenges that we have. But, we're all sticking in it. And I think it's just good partners like you at ADIDAS and our other partners that help us out in the Met section that we kind of lean on in these times. But hey, it's a good problems to have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that's crazy to think about is that, I think we all felt the momentum building towards the end of summer. But when you live in a business that has 4 to 6 month lead times, it's pretty hard to imagine that any of us thought we'd be in the place that we're in today 6 months ago. So we'll get caught up. We'll address the supply chain issues and get ourselves back in a flush position. And, it's great to see so much demand. 500,000 new junior golfers joining the game last year, increase in females and more diverse participants. So a lot of reason to be excited about the game and what's going on. And, applaud you and everyone out there helping all these new golfers learn and get excited about the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at the demand side of things is just a glass half full peek at what's happening here. I mean, I think that sure, we're going to face challenges in our own businesses and things that we're all doing to try to, supplement this boom in golf. But isn't that a great thing at the end of the day? So it's definitely a challenge I'm willing to take because it's good for all of us. So
yeah.
Just want to ask Jeff and Caitlin, is there any luck getting Daniel back on for a minute? If not, I'm happy to put a salutation on this and thank everybody for participating.
Unfortunately, we don't see him coming back in just yet. Not sure what happened.
No problem at all. Well, let me just take this opportunity to thank all the Met section professionals that are out there today. It's really fun to have, partners like ADIDAS and others that we have in our section and people that are willing to, put together great programming. And Daniel, obviously, I'll get a chance to thank him on behalf of all of us, but really fun and engaging time for sure. I know I'm rooting for him. It's going to be really cool to see his successes, and I'm sure there are many more to come. Splav, any parting words there?
No, just a big thank you to you and the whole Met section. Appreciate the time. It's always great to connect. Appreciate all you all do out there to keep the game of golf rolling. So thanks so much. Know that I'm here. The staff is here. Your local reps are here to help with whatever needs that you have. And I can't wait to get back there, get back on the road in a bigger way and start to see you all in person and sing some karaoke with you, Corey. We'll get back out there and get on the stage.
I'm ready. Steve, thanks so much. Please thank the rest of the team at ADIDAS for us. I know I'll reach out to Daniel as you will as well, but we'll finally connect and thank him. But great time. Looks like Daniel Berger might have just popped back in the waiting room. Maybe we could just say goodbye in a more of a formal way.
I saw that as well. So we'll see if he pops back in. Just give a quick goodbye if it works. There we go.
There he is.
My freaking phone has got the worst Wi-Fi here.
Don't worry about it. You're good.
I'm sorry, guys.
All good. All good.
Well, Daniel, we filled the time by singing your praises and thanking you, for this time. I can just say on behalf of all the section professionals, it's just really cool to get a little access to one of the world's best. I know for one, I'll be rooting for you, and I think you have a lot of fans up here in the Northeast, and we can't wait to get you back up here, see you in person, and thank you personally for the time you spent today.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry about that, guys.
No sweat, man. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your time off, and we'll look forward to seeing you back out there on tour, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Daniel. Enjoy the Bahamas, bud. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, guys.